Hello, for this video today we will be talking about tattoo apprenticeships. So I believe that every emerging tattoo artist that is serious about tattooing should seek out a proper tattoo apprenticeship. There are good and bad ones, obviously, and there are, depending on where you live, limited availability. But if you can get it, you should get it. And if you can't, I'll explain why. It's a lot tougher. So you gotta find a good one, right? You gotta find one that, so a mentor that is actually going to nurture your growth, not inhibit it, because there's gonna be mentors out there that are full of ego, full of, just bad things, and it just gets in the way of teaching. So if you find that your mentor is more troublesome than not, you should probably leave. But also know that you're not leaving only because of your ego. So you might perceive them as bad, whereas you're just not intaking proper information because you don't like authority or whatever the reason. So there are many things that tattoo apprenticeships will offer you. One thing, like I briefly mentioned just now, is that tattoo mentor and student relationship. So there's the saying, I learned from Jordan Peterson that you have to be the fool before you can be a king. So the fool is the precursor to the king. And what that means is you have to be willing to look stupid, fumble, bow your head down, make mistakes before you can be more than that, master or a king, right? So you'll learn that through your mentorship, because that's just natural. You have to listen to your teacher for you to grow. I'll give you an example. When I was tattooing over at Dragonfly, I remember one time I was tattooing purple onto dark skin, and I was doing it improperly because it was too small. The details were too tight, and purple, at least the brand of ink and color that I was using on the darker skin client, just wasn't showing well. So I put it on there and thinking like, okay, I did a good job. And then you just look at it and just like, you can barely see it. So we had to have a more senior artist take over for me. And I don't know, I was just upset. I was mad. I was like, that's fine. It was good, Again, I wasn't willing to be the fool. So I wasn't learning that that's not okay. So I stormed off, I ripped my gloves off, I stormed off. While I was out there, I was just thinking, wow, that was stupid. I felt bad, I felt like, what am I going to do now? Like, why did I just do that? So I came back, I apologized, and he was explaining to me, like, you can't use that purple like that. The senior artist that took over for me used magenta instead. And that showed up better on the darker skin client. So there are things you can learn if you allow yourself to learn. But if you don't, because of your natural human emotions and ego and all that, you're not going to learn or grow as much. So you're going to have to, you yourself are going to have to learn how to control that. But just by having a mentor guiding you and putting you in your place and teaching you, it will do it naturally. But you have to learn to control it. You can make some mistakes like I did at that time, but learn to grow from it, learn to process the shame, learn to say sorry. What else can tattoo apprenticeship teach you? It can also fill in all the gaps that you would otherwise overlook if you were learning on your own. So let's say 30 days into your self-taught tattoo career, right? You have all these videos online, you have my videos, you can buy, lower end machines on Amazon. The higher end tattoo equipment, you need, proof of working at a shop, proof of employment, proof of tattoo license. Well, there are probably, unchecked suppliers out there that can sell you legitimate tattoo equipment, but I don't know enough about it. Anyways, you let's say you're learning on your own and you're 30 days in, you learn some fancy techniques and you think you're doing everything correctly, because when you don't have outside forces telling you what's right or wrong, you have only yourself to tell you what's right or wrong. And the way we socialize is when we go out there and butt heads with other people and learn what's right or wrong by people telling you, oh no, that's wrong, and you feel stupid, and then you learn, right? But if you're on your own, then you're likely going to run into plenty of mistakes. So that's where the gaps come in. So you're going to be doing things, right? And then you think you're doing it right because you're seeing the video doing it and you're doing exactly what they're doing, but there's always going to be something that you overlooked or it's missing, because it's a complicated process, tattooing. There's machine, there's ink, there's flow, there's voltage, there's machine type, there's skin type, there's depth. There's just so much. So you're going to miss something, especially if you're a new artist. So if you're in a mentorship, a mentor will see you do your thing and correct you anytime they see that something is wrong. So you get that gap filled right then and there. Whereas if you were on your own, it might take you a week, it might take you a couple days. It's just so much more longer for you to figure out what's wrong, if you do find it. Likely you won't, because it's just a lot of stuff. So that's another great thing about mentorships. It's just immediate access to an experienced artist's vast, library of tattoo information. What else can they offer you? Tattoo apprenticeships. I think, at least when I had my apprenticeship, you can only get the tattoo license if you had one, an apprenticeship. So your mentor will give you the manual to study up on the sanitation and the health test. It's like a driver's permit, but it's like a health permit or whatever. It's not a tattoo test. It's actually a sanitary, equipment knowledge. It's more of a health thing. So yeah, they will guide you and help you get access to that. I don't know if there are other ways, but that's how I did it, and I would have otherwise not known how to do it without the mentor. So what else can tattoo apprenticeships give you? So actually, another great thing about tattoo apprenticeship is you get to go into the shop itself and be around all the tattoo related things. Like, let's say the station is there, the cleaning supplies are there, and the front desk is there. It's all placed with purpose, so you know where everything is and how it's set up. You learn a lot just from that, and seeing your colleagues, the more experienced tattoo artists, interacting with their customers. You understand what goes into that to close the deal, to get to the design, how to design, what goes into making them happy, or putting your foot down and saying no to difficult customers, or just being patient is very important and often overlooked, customer service. So you learn that too. And compared to you being at home with no access to your colleagues and mentor, and actual tattooing process happening right before your eyes, you can only guess what the answer to your problems are. Whereas if you were in a tattoo shop, all you have to do is ask your colleagues, ask your mentor, why are they tattooing this way and that way? And they'll tell you immediately. You can ask questions, and you have to learn how to ask questions and bring yourself to ask questions, because that's also another difficult thing to do. Another thing I should mention is, so pricing for apprenticeships. What is the pricing for it? Each shop does it differently. Some will do it for free. In the case with me, it was $3,000, and in the area, all the other ones were doing for $3,000 as well. So for free, it's never free. You know, if they're gonna give it to you for free, they see potential in you, but they want you to, I guess, give back to them in loyalty, in your skills, to give them to bolster their shop, or they want you to do it for free so you can do the task job and set up station and fetch coffee or whatever. So there's a price for everything, you know. And when they're asking for money, it's more of a carefree kind of thing. You can leave on your own terms, you know. There's not going to be a lot of like outrage if you do leave, but if it's free, you're kind of like expected to stay out of loyalty. So yeah, when I left the $3,000 apprenticeship to go to Dragonfly, he didn't really care. But when I left Dragonfly to go to another shop, because during Dragonfly they gave me a free apprenticeship because they saw potential in me. When I left, it was a tough leave because it was just, they didn't expect it. There was expected loyalty, and we're cool now, but there are different conditions to these things. So yeah, so I mean, talk it through with the potential shop that will give you this apprenticeship. What else? So I got some DMs from some new tattoo artists or aspiring tattoo artists saying, accessibility is difficult. So one of them saying there was no tattoo shops in the area willing to accept his apprenticeship application, or if they're even looking for, So what I told him was, I told him you have to work on what you can. So just keep drawing, build a stronger drawing portfolio so more shops can see you with potential. And yeah, that's one good answer. But he did another thing where he extended his reach to other states. So he was willing to actually move to a different state to get that apprenticeship. And that's amazing. It's like, how bad do you want this? There are things available to you if you want to put extra work into doing it. And if you're not willing to do that, then you are limited. And maybe this is not for you if you can't bring yourself to doing it. Basically, you have to eat shit for the first couple years, go through a lot of difficult customers, go through a lot of hurdles and obstacles to get to a place where I am at now. Like, I'm very comfortable now. I charge, way more than I used to charge earlier on, because it just comes with the right, steps and the right. If I was arrogant and lazy and all that, I would not be here. You have to really build yourself as a human to get to where you are, where you can be. Another DM I got was that he was 1.5 years left of schooling. In his area now, there's no fine line shops for him to be an apprentice for. So he was thinking maybe he could finish the schooling a year and a half and then move to New York City to get a fine line apprenticeship. So basically wait a year and a half and then start after, right? But he told me there was another option where he can just find his local shop, which is a traditional shop, not fine line, and start an apprenticeship there. So my answer was, yes, start there, because there's still things you can learn through a traditional shop, because it's still tattooing, right? And then 1.5 years later, he can transition to a fine line shop in New York City. So, basically don't waste the year and a half saving yourself for the fine line shop, and just start with the traditional shop and work your way there. He'll get a wider perspective because he's trying out, traditional needles, needle groupings, and traditional machines and all that other stuff. It's still a ton of information he can be building, So yeah, it's just different situations for everybody. I had to pay $3,000 for my beginning apprenticeship, and it put my foot in the door, and he led me to Dragonfly, which was the shop that really took me in for a proper apprenticeship. So they taught me so much, and I really owe them a lot. So yeah, everybody's path is different. There's going to be things that aren't the most, favorable, but you just got to go through them. Whether it be traveling farther, whether it be paying more money for it, or settling for what you can, you know what I mean? I was editing the video and I realized I've wanted to add 2 more short but important points. So the first being that the apprenticeship will mitigate mistakes in your tattooing career. So what I mean is that tattooing is permanent and it stays on the person's skin forever. So if you're not disciplined, if you're not properly guided, if you're not warned by mistakes from someone who is more experienced than you, you will make those mistakes onto people and they're stuck with that forever. So the bad thing about that obviously is that it will mess with your conscience. Whether you like it or not, we're all built with one. So you want a good conscience so you can move through life more freely, because if you have that built up, it weighs you down and it messes with your fortune, your good fortune. You know what I mean? So it will mitigate mistakes and it will keep you from accumulating all that extra weight on you as you move along through your career. The other thing is a good tattooing community. I mean, I'm all for social media because it connects the whole world. We are all learning at such a rate, it's fingertips, internet communication. But nothing beats person-to-person interaction, and having apprentices around their shop, more faces, more personalities, more energy in the setting. I love it. It's like it brings more people into the shop. It makes it more livelier. It just makes the environment so much more happier and interesting and spirited. So I really love that about apprenticeships. So yeah, I love people. So it was like, why not?